Hello everybody and welcome to the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge here once again as we continue our run to the end of Season 11. We now visit the longest track on this calendar in the form of Le Mans, a 90-minute race here tonight at the world famous French circuit, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic once more. LMP2s and GT3s separated into three classes once again, and it's going to be good racing as we head down towards the end of our championship once again. My name's Yuri Leary. I'll be alongside Steve Proudly for the slightly extended race here tonight, and it's going to be very, very different to the one we saw 2 weeks ago here, Steve, because the Hungaroring was a couple of weeks ago. It was very tricky to overtake, but I can't see that being a problem today.
No, I think there's going to be lots of opportunities for some overtaking. There's going to be some tactical driving as well, I think, with the LMPs especially, maybe just, taking advantage of the slipstream when they can down the straights, maybe a little bit of fuel saving here and there, but it's a mighty, mighty circuit, this one. It's a circuit where, you may want to trim some of that downforce off for that top speed, but then again, you're going to then struggle through Indianapolis, Porsche curves, Ford chicane, and back round to the start-finish again, so it's another, as we say, I think most around it is a bit of a balancing act, but I think more so here because the lower downforce cars are really going to show some good top speed down the Mulsanne straight tonight.
They are indeed, and there it is, the first Mulsanne chicane anyway, as we peer through the trees here in the north of France. There it is, 13.5 kilometres around this place here, about 7 or 8 miles if you're working in America or the UK. So yeah, there it is. Quite a long track, of course, the second longest road course in iRacing, I believe, other than the Nordschleife, of course, but we're not visiting that, thankfully, on this season here. So it is going to be our longest track this season, a very famous one. It is as well, coming just 4 rounds from the end, and it's going to be a 90-minute race here as well, which does add another layer to it. We'll get into that as we get into the race, really, but in terms of this championship, we are getting down towards the end now. Not long to go. Imola and Nürburgring coming up in the next couple of races, both 60 minutes, and then the Spa finale, which is going to be 1 hour and a half. This is how we stand currently in the standings coming into this race here. Ryan Robertson is currently leading ahead of Trent Brown. Then we've got Kevin O'Keefe there, the main three really in terms of the GT3 AM Championship, and it's been that way for a little while. Trent Brown has been doing well recently and he's got himself into the conversation, but Robertson versus O'Keefe has very much been the story of this category throughout the races so far. Moving on to GT3 Pro, of course, which has Ross Booth still leading it, has been for a while. Bradley Haley chasing him down with Paul Gibson as well. The drop weeks are also coming into more of an effect for us now. So Ryan Wieslewski is sort of here as well. So who knows where he can get to by the end of this one as well. It's going to be quite close up the front of this category, you'd imagine, and quite close in LMP2 as well, as we have a look through this one. Billy Smith, the second, trying to take his second LMP2 championship in 3 seasons. Getting ahead of Carter Kundiger, although I haven't seen him on the grid here today just as of yet. So there may be an opportunity for Kundiger to gain some points here. Saying that, Smith still is dropping currently a 16-point round, which is an awful lot of points. And so if that were to be replaced, then he'd technically gain 16 points in the standings, which would be quite remarkable. So he might actually lose out that much at all by not attending here today. But let's wait and see how it all pans out. We've got a little bit, and they're the team standings actually as well, that we've got for you here this week. Satellite Racing still leading by some complicated maths there that's difficult to do.
We've yet to decipher.
Well, I've deciphered it. I just can't quite do it live. It just needs you to sit away in a quiet room for a couple of hours and you can figure that one out. But anyway, that's not our job. Let's talk about a little bit about qualifying though in these final 5 minutes, because it is working a little bit differently to what we have seen so far. Normally, each class will get its own 15-minute session, but this track is so long that and slipstream is so important around here that they've actually done private qualifying instead, and just one big 15-minute session. So everybody's out there right now in their own session, trying to set the best lap time they currently can. And so that, I guess it adds a little different element to it. The only thing it really changes, I suppose, is the fact that you don't need to find any free track space here today, because each one of these guys have got their own circuit, basically, the track to themselves here today, which is going to be, it takes away a few distractions, which is a good thing for everybody, I feel.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's lesser of two evils, I suppose. I mean, I think it's part of the fun trying to find your own space, and around a track like this, getting that slipstream. Can you imagine the tactical battles of jockeying for position on that outlap and just trying to get it timed right so you're the one that gets the slipstream and he's not giving the slipstream? Yeah, I would have liked to have seen them all out on track at once together. I think that would have been pretty awesome to watch, and it would have given us something else. But I do understand why they've done it around here tonight. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all washes out, and interesting to mention Billy Smith. Like you say, he's not as yet. I can't see him on the server as yet, but he's won the last 3 races he's entered, and the last 6 races regarding the prototypes have been won by just 2 drivers, so it's 2 drivers of dominance there, really. And Billy Smith, he's hit form at the right time, and like you said, by not showing up tonight, potentially he's gaining 16 points, so it's not doing himself any harm, really, is he?
Not really. He's podiumed in the last 7 races as well, which is easily the best record in the championship this season. Anyway, Carter Cunningham in the last 3 weeks hasn't been on the podium, wasn't here last time out at the, or at least didn't score any points to the Hungarian. I don't remember him being in the race, or I don't remember him not being there either, so who knows. But yes, he just jumps up to 2nd place there in the prototype standings with a low 28, and it looks like Nathan Dew just gone slightly quicker than him as well into 2nd place. New driver, by the way, in that number 1 car, Nathan Dew. So look out for him out there here today. Who ran very well in practice, actually topped the session. There is a good 4 hour or so practice session that goes on before qualifying, just so everybody can get connected. And it's quite rare to see everybody out there for the entire time. It's a bit quite long, 4 hours, but you can see some of the guys getting a bit of practice in. And of course, you can see here David A. Williams, the reigning champion in LMP2, changing categories to the GT Pros in the BMW. So wants a new challenge, which is a shame to see for the reigning champion, but he was looking less and less likely like he was going to defend his crown anyway, and so he's decided to move to GT Pro for a different challenge, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, just going back to that new name that we're seeing there, Nathan Dew, I mean, who doesn't like to see a new name in a championship when it's coming to a close with a few rounds left? You know, really sort of throw a stick into the spokes of the bicycle, as it were, and see if we can mix it up for a few drivers. But yeah, it'll be interesting. He's 2nd on the grid at the moment, and we'll see how he does, and if he can be battling in the top 3 or 4, then that's going to be, like I say, that's going to take some points away from some people who probably need them if they're going to try and gain some positions in this championship. That we do come down to the last few rounds, it's every point is going to count now, and yeah, it's going to be a good one to watch.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly who doesn't like a driver like Nathan Dew currently turning up and taking points off people. It's people who want points, which is of course those who are up front in the championship. But it's good for us.
Yeah,
we
absolutely
love to see it. But I think some of the drivers maybe don't sometimes, but there we are.
You could probably, I was going to say, you could probably tell from my tone it was a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment. It was, yeah, I'm excited for it. I do like to see new names, and especially when you go into an established field, because I think it really does test the mettle, and if they can stir it up a little bit and be battling for some of those top positions, like you say, all the better for us, all the better for the people watching at home, and it will create some good racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this one was a new name once upon a time in this season. Anyway, I know he's even won championships in this championship in the past, back in season 6. Not in the LMP2s, but in the GTEs when they were still in use. But he was absolutely flying when he came onto the scene. Currently, he's fallen a little bit to 7th in the standings now, because it's been 3 races since we've seen him on the podium. Never mind a race win, which he took 3 of course, at the very start of this championship. Going to be looking for another one today. Although he's got 8 attempts in qualifying at the moment, I do feel like it's going to be difficult for him to get away today because,
Yep.
as we talked about earlier, the slipstream effect around here is going to be absolutely humongous.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, my question was, do you want to be on that pole position? In fact, do you want to be on that front row potentially in qualifying here? Because if the drivers do themselves a favour and get through the first few corners clean, then I think we could see them 3 wide at least down into that first chicane, and it could be a slipstream battle, and first could turn into 3rd, 4th or 5th place even if they do get that clean start and they stay bunched up on their first run down the straight.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be very entertaining to watch coming into the first Mulsanne chicane, which Mark Santana just makes his way out of right now, but we're coming very much towards the end of qualifying right now. The time has run out, and so that's the end of the session. And we're going to run through our grid very quickly before we get towards the race here at Le Mans. Jeffrey Humes and Nathan Dew are going to be on the front row here together. Championship contender Carter Cunningham is going to be lined up third ahead of Joshua Wolf. Then it's Dan Neese rounding up the top 5 and Robert Tinsey alongside him. Patrick McDaniel and Luke Carbonu will be sharing the 4th row. Vance Bow and Dominic Turnenberg round out your top 10 with Colin Weatherholt in 11th. Cameron Bidwell 3 seconds down and off the pace in 12th. Robert Cansey is 13th ahead of Daniel Nunes, and rounding out the grid, Chris Sherburn, Austin Young and Leif Peterson. 17 cars in the prototype category here today. Ross Booth on pole again here ahead of Young Park and Ryan Wojcicki in GT Pro. David A. Williams, having made the switch, is into 4th ahead of Mo Islam, who rounds up top 5. Johan Schurzy is 6th ahead of David Schott, who's also made the jump across to GT Pro. Paul Gibson shares the 4th row with him ahead of Christopher Pays and Albert Jones running up the top 10. Olivier Turcotte and Paul Slavinik round out your 12 car 14, excuse me. Nico Kopkar and Joey Atterbury are also there in the final row of the GT Pro grid. And then for the first time this season, we've got a McLaren on pole in GT. What a turn up for the books this is for Kevin Santana, who just about edges out Ryan Robertson by 76 thousandths of a second. Luke Schmidt and Ian Lake are sharing the second row ahead of Franco Margarello running up the top 5, excuse me. Robert Cast is next ahead of David Parry. Sheldon Rosenbaum is in 8th position ahead of Jason Iverson and Bradley Salmon running up the top 10. Dale Green and Boyd Payne will be sharing the 6th row of the AM grid. Then it's Mark Santana, Sean Rees and Matthew Gotch rounding out your 15 car GT AM grid. So a very healthy grid and a great place to go racing here, but very close qualifying times despite the length of this circuit here. We are in for a good race here, and these races are getting ever more important as well. We've only 4 races to go in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. The tension is certainly ramping up, and it's we're not quite in a must-win situation for Carter Cunningham, but we're getting that way. Just need to gain a great deal of points on Billy Smith and make use of the fact that his main championship rival is not here today.
He does, yeah, but I think he's going to have his work cut out because Jeffrey Hume's obviously on pole there and he's on form, and Nathan Dew in front of him as well. So, like we said though, if they can get clean away and get onto the straight for the first time, it may be that Carter Cunningham's in that prime seat for a double slipstream, and he may be able to get alongside into the first chicane. So it's going to be a good one to watch, and I think we need to watch Carter Cunningham because we know he's always there or thereabouts. He generally has good races, but yes, he wasn't at the last round, and he's been a couple of rounds before that since he's last been on the podium. But he's had a relatively strong season. He's scored points every round I think that he's attended. So he's doing well, and he's scored good points. And I think his worst scoring round was his first round back at Daytona, which was 7 points, and the rest of the time he's into double figures and on the podium 5 times I think that is. So he's strong driver and deserves to be battling for that championship, but like you say, he can't afford to mess around this evening. He really does need to be aiming for at very least a podium, and potentially he wants that win.
Yeah, he certainly does. Hasn't got one yet, remarkably, but he will be gunning for that one. Neither is Robert Tinsey, actually. He's third in this championship at the moment. But I haven't seen... Oh, Tinsey is there, 6th position for him. Very consistent this season, really, Tinsey. Not as many race wins as he's had in some of the previous seasons, of course. He's got 29 to his name in the series, as Billy Smith II just edged him out to that 30 wins. But still not top of the all-time list, of course. Still waiting for a few of these guys to ready up at the minute. It does take them a while on occasion. And of course, we can't forget about the fact that this is a 90-minute race here this evening, which will change things. Obviously, it makes it a two-stop race for the LMP2s. They split it into 3 half-hour periods. However, I'm beginning to wonder, because Le Mans is such a fuel-heavy circuit anyway, is that going to be possible for everybody here? Because we see at Le Mans in real life when they're using the full fuel tanks, 40 minutes normally for a stint in LMP2, but at a normal circuit, at Le Mans, excuse me, it's a lot shorter than 40 minutes in the LMP2s. At least it has been in the past. So I'm just wondering if it's going to be a little bit of a struggle today for everybody to make that all-important half-hour mark.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to at the beginning when I was talking about strategy is going to come into play, because is it going to be better to sit behind and try and just save that little bit of fuel? Will they be able to save enough fuel to make it work, and will we see some people just not quite managing to achieve that? I'm going to say it as well, Dan Neese. Is this his race to come back? Because again, we keep saying it every week. We've seen him. He had such a good start to the season. He's qualified reasonable midfield in the LMPs tonight. So it'll be good to see Dan have a good race and not get caught up any incidents. But he's got to get those first few laps under his belt nice and clean and settle into a rhythm.
He certainly has. We'll see if he can as well. It would be good to see him getting back up towards the front again, back where he started this season, of course. So we look back through the LMP2 field as they separate themselves away from the GTs in this field right now. Nice to see, by the way. I know I speak about the McLaren every week because it is my favourite car on this grid, but nice to see one on pole. Not exactly a huge surprise to me because it is very good down the straights. Has always been its greatest strength, and given the amount of straights here, it's not exactly shocking to see that a car with good straight line speed going well at Le Mans. But there we are. They'll be pretty annoyed the chicanes are there, to be honest, but we all know why they have to be there. So yeah, McLaren running well, and of course down here at the Porsche curve, it's going to be one of the trickiest sections of the course all throughout. Really, we've not really spoken about it so far, but of course they made some track changes since the iRacing scan was made of this circuit, and so the wall is a lot closer through some of these corners than it is in real life. So mistakes are going to be punished if indeed they are made here in this race. Hopefully they aren't, but it's a tricky part of the course, and they're going to have to be careful as they come through towards the slightly slower speed. Final few corners, of course, at the Ford chicanes. And the safety car will be leading them down towards the pit lane, and it's going to be over to Jeffrey Humes to get this race underway here for 1 hour and a half of racing here at Le Mans. 4 rounds to go in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge and a 90-minute race at Le Mans to come. Jeffrey Humes gets us underway. The green flag is in the air at Le Mans, and he's already got a car length or 2 over the rest of the field running down in towards turn number 1. It's a very nicely single file start actually over the start-finish line for the leading LMP2s. It's possibly a good thing coming into the first chicane of this race. They all try and stay together at the very least for the first Mulsanne chicane, where slipstream is going to become a factor. The GT's also starting in the background here, and you can already see the advantage of the McLaren because it's already up into 4th position in the overall GT race, which is quite remarkable when you think about it, really, as these guys all get themselves underway. A little bit more bunched up this time, though. Let's hope they all get through here cleanly through the first chicane. Everybody just tries to stay together and benefit from that slipstream coming down the Mulsanne straight for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. As the LMPs are just hitting those high revs now and just popping out of the slipstream there, we can see some just battling for moves. As the GTs all very organised, very efficient, and very single file at the moment, and just looking to grab that slipstream. And we see in the picture-in-picture that the LMPs are now negotiating that chicane, and it's all looking very orderly and very respectful this evening, Ewan.
Is so far. It's a long race, and so they just wanted to get into this one really and stay together. I feel like staying together in these trains is going to be quite important throughout the race, as we see Carter Cunningham making his way down the inside. The top 2 in LMP2 already getting away from the rest of the field. Cunningham getting down the inside of Joshua Wolf there into the second chicane, and so he is through and he's going to lead the charge, but it might be difficult to get them back. This is what I feared already is that if you lose the slipstream straight away, then it's going to be very difficult to get it back. And I feel like these guys that you're looking at right now have already fallen into that trap. Wolf and Cunningham battling very hard early on in this race.
Yeah, exactly that. They were battling right from the start through the first few corners, and that has just allowed the front two guys of Ooms and Jude to just stretch the legs a little bit and, like you say, potentially break that slipstream. And Jude's doing the sensible thing and just staying tucked in behind Ooms and following him. But the guys behind, they're all starting to get a little bit itchy look, and they're going to go 3 wide here. And contact there, just not enough room to go 3 wide, and just a gentle tap.
A bit of miscommunication almost as well, going down the straight there into Indianapolis now. It was Dan Neese trying to make it 3 wide and made a bit of contact there on the outside with Joshua Wolf, but thankfully that all got resolved. Coming down towards a very tricky couple of corners there, of course. So yeah, that was a lucky escape for everybody. But exciting battling going on in the opening laps here as we look back at the GTs, staying a lot more in close attendance to each other. On this occasion, as Cunningham goes back down the inside, the gap now 3 seconds. 2 Ooms due up front. They go into the Porsche curves and they will single file themselves out, but they continue to lose time to the 2 leaders who are going to fight things out between themselves. And indeed, the likes of Robert Tinsey here, just watching these 3 battling up in front here, and he's going to be settling in quite nicely here and saving a bit of fuel, which might be a bit important a little bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be interested to see how much difference it does make, to these, especially to the prototypes, the LMPs, to see what if fuel saving does make any difference. But these guys are not interested in that at the moment. Wolf is just more interested in being at the front, and to be honest, I don't really understand that at the moment. I think they'd be better off not battling, just following each other, saving a bit of fuel and just saving some time as well, and just concentrating on trying to close that gap, because those 2 guys were on the front row for a reason, and if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and that's exactly what they're doing. They've got a nice little gap up there now. But that Santana in the McLaren, in the AMS, he's doing an absolutely outstanding job of hanging on to that 4th place overall in the GTs, and he's not only is he hanging on to it, he's there battling. He's up there and he's pushing, isn't he?
He is. Ryan Robertson is just behind him, starting to run away with this GT AM Championship, it has to be said, right now, as the top 6 in GT start to get away. Zhu has lost a lot of time here somewhere, clearly, because he might have got a slowdown actually out of Tete Rouge. That often does happen, or can do anyway. It's really hurtful as well. Down to 5th position already for him, I'm afraid. I think that Colin Weatherholt on your screen right now has also suffered from the very same fate as Zhu. He's continuing to fall down the order, and he's completely in the barriers on the left-hand side there. So clearly something else other than the slowdown, if there was one, has gone wrong here, because he's out of this race, or at least out of the running for the top positions without a doubt. So what has gone on there? And somebody blowing through the chicane there. It looks like Chris Sherburn maybe in the background there. But yeah, it looks like there's been a bit of chaos in this group really. And it's all of a sudden left Jeffrey Ooms completely out on his own and completely out front, running away with this race.
Yeah, promoted Carter Cunningham up to that 2nd place at the moment, so a few more points for him if he can hang on to it. As we've seen already, they're battling, but Wolf's dropped down to 4th place as well, as Tinsey's got ahead of him. But let's have a look at replay and see if we can see what happened to Dew.
Oh, well, he pulls over by his own accord there, by the looks of things. So I don't know quite why he's done that, but he has just looked like he pulled onto the left-hand side and stopped there. It didn't even look like there was a technical failure. It didn't. Yeah, well, we're hearing it might have been a hardware failure. Maybe I just don't know what one looks like, but there we are. Yeah, very, very strange. But I guess that is the only reasonable explanation, really, isn't it?
Yeah, just a reliability issue there with the car, and he's out of this race. So he's made his debut. He's qualified well, and he's only managed to get into the 2nd lap. So and he's had to pull over and park it. So yeah, disappointing for him. But Carter Cunningham will be smiling. He's got up a position, as I said, and he's going to be looking to defend that P2 at the moment. Although he's in close attention with Robert Tinsey, Joshua Wolf, and Dan Neese. They're all pretty close together still. So it's not going to be an easy one for him, and I don't think the battle's going to go anywhere soon.
Yeah, absolutely. You would imagine so. Looks like there's more breaks in the group coming up towards the front as well here as a result. possibly of battles going on, of course. We can't forget, we're talking about the straights here at Le Mans, but it's not all straights and chicanes around here. It is, there are a lot of high-speed corners, very technical sections as well, which split the field apart. This is Robert Cast getting into the barriers a little bit earlier on. I believe that, right. Oh dear, and the Audi just about doing well enough.
Wow.
To get out the way. Yeah, this is Cast struggling to keep going really because of the damage. But yeah, I believe that was the second lap of this race, and you can see how close battling through some of these sections at Le Mans are very, or easier said than done, we'll say, because that is hefty damage on that Porsche really, and we're about to see the results of the damage down here at the first chicane.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you know, like you say, any damage that they could pick up tonight is going to hurt them for a big chunk of lap time when it comes down to if they lose any sort of top speed, if they're losing a bit of air or anything like that, and it's creating a bit of drag, whatever. But there he goes off again, and yeah, back to the pits and towed back, and he'll sit there hopefully for a repair and rejoin. But it's just look at Jeffrey Humes at the moment. He's got nearly 5 seconds stretched out already, and that's with no slipstream and no help from anybody else. It's just a case of he's not battling. He's able to put his lap times in and do what he needs to do, and the rest of the guys behind are starting. Yeah, Cunninger's got around about a second. He's made a little bit of a break, but so not quite sure what's happened for him to get that little bit of a break up there and get some breathing room. But the guys behind are still grouped up, so there's still very much a slipstream battle going on there for 3rd, 4th and 5th place.
Yeah, there certainly is. This is Patrick Ruggiano almost getting pushed here by Luke Carbonell. This is probably the most sensible idea, and this is what we saw a lot of in the iRacing special event, the Daytona 24 Hours, which is quite a long time ago now, nearly 3 months. But yeah, bump drafting has become quite popular actually. If you can stomach it, and you can just about feel safe enough doing it, that it is a little bit quicker than just coasting behind. Obviously, you can save a bit more fuel by coasting behind, but you're not going to go any quicker. So, or not much quicker anyway. So bump drafting may be a bit more of a thing, especially in the prototypes. Obviously GT is a bit more plausible, especially in real life. But yeah, prototype bump drafting has become a bit of a thing, and we may see a bit more of it going forward as we get into a bit of traffic already in this race. You can see the amount of speed that McDaniel's gaining from this, although I can imagine it is quite scary. I wouldn't feel that comfortable doing it myself.
Yeah, I must admit it must take a lot of skill and a lot of confidence to be able to do it, because one wrong steering input, one wrong tap, and that's it. You're in the steward's office and you're going to get a good dressing down, because at the end of the day, if you're the one doing the pushing and it goes wrong, there's nobody else to blame, is there?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't go for it personally, but if it's the fastest way, then these guys are going to go for it if they can. As we see more battling going on, lots of battling going on in the GT category, kind of all over the place at the minute. The AM and Pro fields are more fragmented and more all over the place than I think I've ever seen actually. It's not really, I think it's just the nature of this circuit possibly taking effect, especially up towards the top 10, 15 kind of area. Once you get outside the top 15, you do start to see almost all AMs, and looking into the background of these shots, you will see almost all AMs. But if we look towards the foreground and we look further up the road from these guys, it's real mix, and mixed up here, I'm afraid. Jordan Johan Schurzy all of a sudden has got up into second position. Who in the background there though has gone around? That is the question. I think it might have been Williams actually who's gone around, one of them anyway.
Well, the McLaren's suffered as well, because he's dropped down a few positions. He's still second in the AM class, but he's overall in the GTs he's dropped off the pace a little bit, and I think he was involved somewhere there.
It's not Young Park, is it? It might well be. He makes very slight contact with Williams. Oh, it's such a slight tap between the two of them, but they both go around, and Santana, contact with the McLaren. Is there damage to that McLaren? Quite possibly, but yeah, fine margins, and it's had drastic consequences, and there's more here. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah,
that was poor. That was poor.
Oh, and it's still going on. Dear me.
Yeah, that was very poor, and that has to be said. I mean, they did the right thing reversing back, but they should have carried on going back a little bit further, cleared the track, and then joined a little bit more parallel instead of driving across it like that. Has to be said. But yeah, you quite right. Santana, he had nowhere to go. He was innocent really in that accident, but it's cost him dearly. But I tell you what, Ryan Robinson leading the M class and second overall. A couple of seconds behind Ross Booth, so he's putting on a really good show tonight, and we've seen him do that in previous rounds. He's definitely got the pace to be in that pro class, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, it certainly looks like it right now. Let's not forget that Ryan Wozleski in the GTD category, I know it was GT3s and GTEs last season, which is a little bit different, but he's moved up to GT Pro this time around, so we could see a similar situation going on next season. This is what it looked like from Luke Schmidt. And there was a bit of afters here with David A. Williams, so yeah, it's not what you want to see. Very avoidable is the only words that can describe that, really.
Yeah, it was poor, very, very poor driving standards there from the cars that were involved in that. When I say the cars involved, the two that had the initial incident, everybody else was pretty innocent, I think. So that's my humble opinion anyway. But let's have a look at another replay of Young here, who's, that was an interesting one.
Well, realised he wasn't making the corner, and so jumped across it without going through the tyre barriers there, which are very, very, very tight indeed. Don't really want to be doing that. So chose the gravel instead. Lost a bit of time, but probably better in the long run, really, than the alternatives. As we see.
Interesting.
Sorry, go on.
I was say, interesting up at the front, Jeffrey Humes obviously stretched that gap out to nearly 6 seconds. We've just seen a little bit of a battle there going on with Santana. McLaren's still got the pace, still making moves, and still looks to be pretty handy in a straight line, Ewan. But I was just going to say, Jeffrey Humes pulled that lead out to it's nearly 6 seconds now. Carter Cunningham, he's pulled just over a second out on Tinsey, who in turn's got a little bit of breathing room. So they're not doing too bad, the top three at the moment. They're creating some space for themselves and trying to make a bit of a break for it.
They are at the minute, as we see this battle going on a little bit further down in GT. This is what I mean. GT Pro and Am all thrown into one here. Margarella and Rosenbaum battling here. The two BMWs, the black and red BMW in the middle of your screen at the minute is Margarella, and then the slightly bluer one is Rosenbaum. So they've got a Lamborghini, a Pro Lamborghini just in the middle of them. Might be Mo Islam possibly, or somebody even a little bit further down. Actually, I think he is a bit further down actually. In the standings, but down the inside anyway of Margarella. Oh, it's going to be close, and this is a bit dangerous going down towards Arnage, but made it work. These obviously GT3s can go very deep under brakes indeed. It's a good cop car actually who's trying to get through at the moment on Margarella, and you do wonder once again if it's better to just kind of let him go at this stage, but it's kind of difficult to really, and they're engaged in a battle now. Margarella wants to keep the pace up high as Young Park tries to recover from the issues that he had a little bit earlier on down at Arnage, of course, with a move on the inside at Indianapolis. Oh dear, it's close between him and David Schutt round the outside through the left-hander. Good racing between the two of them, good room given as well, but Park should have this one with the inside line. That's Arnage. I've realised I've been calling Mulsanne Corner Arnage, sorry about that. There we are, out of Arnage. They're still side by side. This is the beauty of Le Mans, of course. The battles continue on seemingly forever.
Yeah, both drivers doing an outstanding job there, just showing how much racing fun you can have around here and side by side for several corners, and very, very high speed corners, but like you say, giving enough racing room. But the Lamborghini's going to drop it down the inside there and take two positions in one corner. That was pretty impressive.
Well, both Lamborghinis went deep into that corner. Their cup car went in to gain positions, and we saw David Schutt going in too deep by accident, so he lost 3 places in that one. Margarella was able to actually gain a place overall, at least from that. He's struggling through the Porsche curves as well, he's Schutt at the minute, so he's got now David A. Williams all over the back of him. Well, not when I say all over the back of him, of course, I mean there's a car in between them, but he's next on the list in terms of trying to get up the places once more after the issues that he had a couple of moments ago. But we're just over 15 minutes into this one, and the packs are starting to separate just a little bit, but we still do have battles like this one, and they will continue on by the looks of things. Pit stops are going to be the real only thing to separate us into proper int ones and twos like we normally see, rather than just big groups that we've got flying around at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely, and Santana's doing a fantastic job still up there in the AMS and still in second place, and he's actually, his last lap was ever so slightly by a couple of tenths faster than Ryan Robertson in the overall lead of the AM class, so that McLaren's still making moves, although he's sort of around about 7 seconds or so, and then 8 seconds off that lead of the M class, but he's still giving it everything, and with a long time left on the clock, he's still got plenty of time to make some moves and to close that gap up. But it is settling down a bit. The battles are here with the slipstream. There's still some good groups, but it seems that you'll get the overtake done on one straight, but then they'll come back at you on the next one, because you know once you've received the slipstream, you're the next man to give the slipstream. So it's good battles. Tactics will come into this, but now we're back with Tinsey in third place in the prototypes, and he's the cork in the bottle for the rest of the field. Ooms and Cunningham have got some breathing room, and they're concentrating on their own races at the minute, although Cunningham's only got just over a sort of a second and a half. He's not comfortable by any means, but Tinsey's definitely he's got some close attention from Wolf and Nice behind. Nice having that good race that we wanted him to have.
Yeah, he certainly is right now. It's not over, of course, but top 5 running is going to be very valuable for him at the minute. He hasn't finished inside the top 5 for a couple of one round, but before that it was a long time. So yes, we'll see if Danny's can start to string some races together, as we do see a bit of traffic now as well. Oh dear, that's a bit of a stack up there for Wolf. There's miscommunication certainly with the GT there, and that was not nice for him at all. He has to make his way around the outside, does so eventually, but yeah, that just demonstrates, as we see at every circuit, even at a track like this one with so many straights, so many opportunities to pass, traffic will still play a role today, because that singular BMW has formed a 1.5 second gap in this battle for third.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still some corners, there's still the chicanes, and if you catch those GT cars at the wrong time, there's nothing you can do about it. You've got to just try and use some racecraft experience and some common sense to try and get past them as safely as you can. And I think they managed it there, but albeit only just by the skin of the teeth. They just about got through. So Tinsey, he's putting in some good times. He's putting in some consistent laps now, and he's looking pretty comfortable now after Wolf and Nice had that incident with the GT car, that little bit of a miscommunication. It has given him some breathing room as we just jump on board with him now and just listen to this motor start to wind up and hit those high revs and get to the top end of the speed range.
Using long gears, of course, around here at Le Mans, otherwise you'd just be bouncing off the limiter all day. If you were using a ratio that you use at Belle Isle, for example. So there we are. Very different array of circuits throughout the 14 races in this season 11 calendar, which is of course what we want to see. As Cameron Bidwell makes his way out of Arnage, chasing down Austin Young at the minute, who we saw going through the gravel not so long ago. But Young's making a good account of himself at the minute. I think it's his first race of the season. It is indeed. So yeah, running well inside the top 10 early on in this one. Still only 20 minutes gone, and still about 20 minutes away from these LMP2 pit stops. Are we going to see everybody making it to the half-hour stage or not? If they make it 3 more laps, if they make it to lap 9, then they should be in the money here in terms of pit stops. But if they only make it to lap 8, then they're really going to be praying that this race doesn't go on for too long, really, because they may not make it. So yeah, it's not exactly a short lap around here. You can't coast your way around, lift and coast your way around the final lap. It's got to be an effort from the very start of a stint if you do indeed want to make your stint last just that 1 lap longer than if needs be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's we often see the leader cross that start-finish line with not many seconds left on the clock, and obviously doing that here at Le Mans with a circuit of this, where, like you say, it's so fuel-hungry and it's such a long lap. Not to mention the amount of time you're at full throttle. It could catch a few cars out. We could see some incidents and some issues with cars running out of fuel on that last lap if that were to happen tonight. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I think fuel saving is going to be key tonight, and like you said, they're going to have to get those extra couple of laps in to make it to that half-hour mark and just try and give themselves a fighting chance of getting to the end without having to make a splash and dash.
Dan Nice, just as we were saying, he's having a good race for once in a while. It's all gone wrong a little bit here, I'm afraid, for him. It looks like he might have been in contact with a Lamborghini coming down into the first Mulsanne chicane. We'll try and get a replay of that before long, but yeah, that is a real shame to see for Dan Nice, who was having his first good run in a good while, and it's all fallen apart for him, I'm afraid. Looking at the GT battles, as we said earlier, they have spaced out a little bit more now. This is what happened though. Sean Rees looks like he's a long way ahead of Dan Nice at this stage, so it looks like just a misjudgment. Oh dear, Nice breaking into the corner there. That's an LMP2's pace. Forgetting, of course, the GT3 does need to take its time a little bit more heading into the first chicane there, or well, and the second one, I suppose. Into all of these corners, of course, and yeah, just a simple misjudgment there from Nice, and it's cost him a top 5 position, now running down in at 9th place.
Yeah, and I would imagine that he's possibly carrying some damage from that. It's quite a heavy impact, and the Lamborghini will definitely be carrying some damage because it took the brunt of that full force on the rear end of the Lambo there. So I think they'll definitely be losing some speed. We might see the Lamborghini having to pit.
Yeah, we might well do. We'll see about the GT3s as well today. If they can make the half distance. We do normally see them making a good 40 minutes. Well, so it's going to be a 2-stop for the GT3s as well. It certainly was for Daytona, which is, I guess, the most comparable circuit to this one, since we've only had 2 90-minute races like this one to start with this season. But also, in terms of how long you spend full throttle there compared to here, it's probably might be worse here, but it's at least comparable, I suppose. So yes, we'll probably be seeing 2 pit stops from these GT3s as well, but when and how are they going to take them? That's the question really. As Ryan Rosleski and Mo Islam battle over 2nd place here. Ross Booth is currently leading both in the championship and this race as he continues to run away with this title. Paul Gibson is currently 2nd in the championship. Ryan Rosleski 35 points down on Ross Booth at the moment, so he's limiting the damage here today with a 2nd place, but he would much rather be gaining points on his rival at this stage, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ross Booth is leading that GT Pro class at the moment and the championship, like you say, and this is probably one of his most comfortable races in recent history, I think, where he's got a good lead and he's out on his own pretty much, and with all the sort of battling going on behind him, and Ryan Robertson, actually in that 2nd place overall, and obviously in the AM class, Ross Booth's closest rival is well over sort of 12-13 seconds back at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Right now, it's a big lead for Booth, but we can't forget that that incident down at the Mulsanne corner has created quite a lot of that gap.
Dan Nice in the pits.
That might not be down to fuel, but also the damage possibly picked up at the first chicane there.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see really, because that's after only 7 laps. I think they'll need to make it to about 9 to make the half-hour mark. But then again, kind of 8.5 laps is half an hour. So this is the problem with is this race going to go 1 lap longer or not? This is the problem that everybody's facing. Nobody quite knows how many laps their race is going to be today, which is very frustrating from a strategist's point of view.
How long we're expecting pit stops to be, because Dan Nice is now on his way out, so if he's repaired damage, that's a relatively quick pit stop for repairing damage as well. I'm not sure if they have fast repairs on for this league. I'm not quite sure if they do. I don't think they do.
Not entirely sure. I think that's just a little bit longer. 44 seconds is a little bit on the long side. I think you'd be aiming 10 seconds below that, really, from memory anyway. So we'll get a better bearing when people start coming in, maybe at the end of this lap, if they can't go any further, or indeed at the end of the next one, where surely they'll have to, because they can no longer run with no fuel. So yeah, we'll see about that when the time comes. But this battle in GT is the entertainment right now. Wozleski, Islam and Shirazi also here with Mark Santana. Second place in GT. I'm currently involved in this battle as well after that incident, of course, that's really changed the face of the front of both categories in GT3.
Yeah, I tell you what, as well, Santana there, that McLaren might be pretty quick in a straight line, but it was pretty damn good on the brakes there as well. He closed up absolutely meters there in the braking zone, and absolutely took my breath away. Thought he was going to hit that car in front, but he managed to get it stopped okay. It was just a better performing car on the brakes at McLaren as well as the speed. Yeah,
absolutely. It is a wonderful car. I say it every week, but
fanboy.
I am, yes. I'm not even going to argue the case on that one. Coming through the Porsche curves, though, and out towards the pit lane entry come the leaders. And here's Carter Cunningham, goodness me. And they dive and duck and dive through the traffic. Jeffrey Ooms has to come into the pit lane. We're still 2 minutes before the half-hour mark. He's been running out on his own, of course, for this entire race, burning all of the fuel on his own. And Carter Cunningham, Robert Tinsey, ducking and diving in the slipstream a little bit throughout this race so far, has managed to go this lap further. So all of a sudden this race changes. Cunningham now takes the lead, and Ooms has got some work to do in terms of saving fuel now. Surely he's going to have to go 9 laps in the middle of this race.
Yeah, this is good. This is what we wanted, isn't it? Because it's not just about what happens on track now. It is that strategy of making your fuel last that little bit longer and getting that extra lap out of it, and potentially not having to do that extra splash and dash at the end. That could have really it could put pay to Ooms' his battle for the win here tonight. Because if these guys can do this in both stints and stretch it out, they're in the pound seat. Cunningham at the moment, he's got the lead of this race, and it may well be his race to lose.
Yeah, anyone who's making a splash and dash today will be certainly out of it by the end, you'd expect. Ooms at the moment having a long stop here. I just wonder if something's happened on the in-lap here, because this is a long stop for Jeffrey Ooms. Cameron Bidwell and Conor Weatherholt have done under 30-second pit stops, which is absolutely normal for this race. Jeffrey Ooms has had a problem here, and he's surely repairing damage by the looks of things. Wow, the race leader having to come in. I think there's been contact on the in-lap somewhere here, because this is a awfully long stop for Jeffrey Ooms, putting pay to any chance he had of winning this race. Of course, he had a very good chance. He had a nice lead, but it's all gone away from him now.
Yeah, for sure. He's on his way out now with a 1 minute 10 stationary in the pits. So that's a long stop, and that's that, like you say, that's over double what you would expect from for a pit stop here tonight. So it's definitely cost him some time, and it's definitely cost him a lot of positions. So he's got it all to do to try and fight back. But we know Jeffrey Ooms has got pace, and potentially he's obviously lost any opportunity to maybe win this race tonight. But he's one to watch. He's going to battle through.
Certainly is. This is going to be a great battle for the lead now between Cunningham and Tinsey. Both of these guys need race victories, because of course Billy Smith is going to be gaining 16 points no matter what happens here today on his rivals after that drop week. Or this will become one of his drop weeks, and the one where he's dropping 16 points, which is a lot, by the way, will of course be added to his actual score, if that makes any sense. It makes sense when you're looking at the when you're looking at the standings in the spreadsheet. So yeah, there you are. It's not a terrible thing for Smith to be missing this one. Of course, he'd rather be here, because of course he'd have a chance of taking a race victory. But now it's up to Cunningham versus Tinsey. Surely these guys, as they come through the Porsche curves now on lap 9, are going to be coming into the pit lane here, because it is very much that window where you'd expect to see the LMP2s into the pit lane, making their way through the end of the lap now towards the Ford chicanes, and they're going to be pulling to the drivers right now into the pit lane Not an easy pit lane to get onto, I've got to be honest. It's not quite Motegi, but it is quite tricky. There it is, they break for the line. And the two of them are going to be nose to tail in the pit lane here. You can expect them to be nose to tail on the way out as well. Going to be a very, very good fight for the final hour between those two, as we see all kinds of things going on, and even the GT3s also coming in now, just almost highlighting what a 30-foot circuit it is, because the GT3s were pitting a fair amount later at Daytona.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, it's I can't remember what the figures are, but the percentage lap time at full throttle is pretty insane around here. But we're seeing Williams is still going round at the moment, and he's managing. He hasn't pitted already, has he, Williams? No, he's not had a pit stop at all. So he's managing to keep going. He's managed to save enough fuel, and he's staying out and playing the long game. And the thing is with this circuit though, Ewan, pretty much when we see them staying out, it's not like other tracks where they're going to do 2, 3, 4 laps more. They're literally probably only going to get one more lap, and then they're going to have to come in, aren't they?
Yes, that is true, but it could say, but going one lap extra here is going to save you seconds in the pit lane in terms of fuel time. So so it is beneficial, very beneficial still. But then again, the side effect of that, of course, it's far more difficult to save fuel for a 13.5-kilometre circuit, because that is a very, very long way for just one lap. Cunningham and Tinsey are out again, not quite as nose to tail as they were before, but they're pretty close. Once more, almost identical pit stop times for the top 6, especially Cameron Bidwell's was a little bit shorter, but only by a couple of seconds, and Colin Weatherholt likewise. But Jeffrey Humes 1 minute 10 in the pit lane. It's more than double that of Carter Cunningham. He is way out the back at the minute. 12th place for Humes. He's going to be very frustrated. We haven't seen what happened to him. I'm not convinced there has been anything that's happened to him, of course, because I haven't seen anything either. But surely that is the only explanation. I mean, even a fuel and tyres pit stop is about 55 seconds in the LMP2. So it must have been damage. And with the amount of traffic and stuff going on today, that would not be completely shocking, even for Jeffrey Humes.
Well, I think, I might, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Jeffrey Humes at one of the previous races that made a mistake in the pits, and did he not tick? He didn't tick to ignore the damage and repair the damage before. Maybe he's done the same again. Maybe he has had a little bit of damage and maybe didn't mean to repair it, something like that. But he's definitely, like you say, he's definitely cost himself the chance to win this race, and he was over double the pit stop time. So he's going to be making the best of a bad job for Jeffrey Humes, but it's certainly not going to be the top step on the podium tonight for him.
Yeah, I do remember somebody accidentally taking tyres one race. I feel like it might have been Motegi for some reason, but possibly not. Maybe a little bit longer ago than that. But yeah, that's ringing a bell with me at the minute as well. Oh, as we see wide for Patrick McDaniel, Mulsanne corner is a very important one as well, as the run up towards Indianapolis is after this. So any bad run through there is going to really hurt you, and it is for McDaniel. Vance Bow and Cameron Bidwell both straight through in this battle for 5th place. Now Bidwell has got Bow in his sights, but will not be looking to go through here into Indianapolis, partly because of that GT, I'd imagine, on the run down here. So they say single file, but the corners around here are indeed amplified in their importance because of the straights leading afterwards. Making a mistake through Mulsanne corner like that is very, very costly, as Patrick McDaniel has just found out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the corner speed is so important because you're carrying it onto the straights, and the straights are so long that any sort of disadvantage you put yourself at is amplified throughout the lap and down these straights. But the battling is good tonight. We are still seeing these cars grouped together, and even after the pit stops, they are still grouped together. I mean, you just have to look at that prototype leaderboard there, and you can see the times in yellow and orange. That indicates the cars are still close together there within that second. And it's very, very close. There's a lot of cars battling for position. Tinsey's closing back up onto Cunningham again, and he's closed that gap down. So it appears that Tinsey has got the pace on Cunningham, or he was very much he's managed to pick up the slip, get close enough to pick up the slipstream and close that gap down.
Well, I've never seen that before. Patrick McDaniel skips the final chicane there. The changes of direction, car getting all out of shape, and he's had to slow down dramatically there on the front straight. because he's jumped the chicane as the other half of the GT field come into the pit lane. Ryan Robertson comes in from the lead of the overall GT race, by the way, which is, well, I don't remember that happening ever. And it might not happen again, so savour that moment for a second. Ryan Robertson certainly will be, as he comes out of the pit lane now to lead GT3 Am once more. Ross Booth also comes out the pit lane to lead GT3 Pro. We've got great GT battles, as we've been seeing so far in this race here, but none of those battles are for the lead, because those two, Booth and Robertson, championship leaders as well, really putting their mark on this championship and not willing to let it go very easily, as you'd imagine. Oh.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's still close battling, but I mean, I can't take it away from Robertson. He's been dominant in the Am Championship. He sort of hit his stride a good halfway through, and he was having a few battles with some of the other guys early on in the season, but he's really he's making this championship his own now, and you'd be a brave man to bet against him taking that championship. And Ross Booth the same, really, with the GT, with pros. He's had some stiff, I would say he's had stiffer competition for longer, but he's really stamped his authority at the last few rounds now, and he's obviously putting his mark down, and he's on the run home now for the championship win, I think. But the prototypes here, we're looking at Tinsey and Cunningham. These two very much need the win. Both of them want that win. They want these points, and both of them can see the opportunity here. And Cunningham at the moment, he's having to get all defensive with Tinsey.
They both definitely need this win here, because even though there's only 3 points between first and second in terms of the points that you actually gain, the maximum either of these two can gain on Smith today is only 9 points, and there's a big difference between gaining 9 points and gaining 6, and that's what Robert Tinsey has just taken over with now. He slipstreams past towards Indianapolis for first place overall in the race, and Cunningham slides into second place. Joshua Wolf and Luke Carbonu are not too far behind either in that front battle in LMP2 as well. Vance Bell, Patrick McDaniel and Cameron Bibbo also still battling away, not too many seconds behind. So with the absence of Ooms up front, it's now got very close at the front of LMP2, but it is exceptionally important for them both to win that race, because Tinsey's not out of this championship, I wouldn't say, just yet. 38 points adrift at this stage, with a possible 108 to gain, including this race here. So he's very much still in this one, but he needs to gain those 9 points desperately, as does Cunningham, because it's really not that many when you think about it. 9 points is really not that many, and that's for winning the race. Yeah,
absolutely. Like I say, it's the dropped rounds that really sort of change the face of it all, and make it a mathematical nightmare to work out. But it sounds like you're on the ball this evening, you, with it all, and it definitely they just need to maximise the points, like you say, and try and take something out of that lead that Billy Smith II's got himself so far in this season.
I'm waiting for someone to break my heart and tell me I've done the maths wrong.
It's not going to be me.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. We're watching currently the battle for second in GT3 Am. There's a huge gap to Ryan Robertson, as you can see. It's absolutely unbelievable. But a little bit further behind, we've got David Parry and Matthew Gotch battling away. A lot of the guys up front in GT3 Am have been involved in incidents and have had to take on longer stops, like Franco Margarella, 4 minutes 20 in the pit lane. Sheldon Rosenbaum, over 3 minutes in the pit lane. Luke Schmidt, 1.5 minutes, for example. So 10 minutes for Mark Santana in the... was that the car that was leading? Or yeah, it was indeed, the pole-sitting car. 10 minutes in the pit lane a little bit earlier on, but he's back running again. Nearly 13 minutes for Paul Slavenik. There's been a lot going on in GT3 Am. And we've not been able to keep quite on top of it. It's absolutely everything. But that is a shame to see. The McLaren briefly having a good run, but 10 minutes in the pit lane, and so they have dropped down a lot. It's given Ryan Robertson an even bigger lead, as if he didn't already have one. This is now the battle for second, and Ryan Robertson just about to exit the first sector as these guys come across the start-finish line. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I say, it's just showing his authority. As I said, his skill, his racecraft, his ability, and he's just he's got this one in the bag, hasn't he? He just needs to keep it clean. He needs to stay out of the way of the LMPs as they come through, and just drive a sensible race. He's obviously he's not catching Booth up. He's lapping slower than Booth, and in fact, Robertson's last lap was 6 seconds slower than Booth's lap. So he cost himself some time somewhere around that lap because 6 seconds off his previous lap time, and it's as easy as that, isn't it? Get tangled up with something, you can soon lose a lead. You can soon pick up damage, and as we've seen with Jeffrey Humes, we're not quite sure what went on there, but he's definitely he lost himself a lot of time through either a mistake in the pits or an incident on track.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the one thing about Ryan Robertson, I would say, for his absolutely astonishing pace that he's shown all season long. He has thrown away 1 or 2 races this season, I've got to be honest. He has had a couple of poor performances where you wouldn't expect them. Obviously, Suzuka, a complete disaster when he only scored 3 points, and he's had a couple of those really where he's not scored many points at all. He really should have done, but at least scored more points. But when he's on form like this, there's almost no stopping him. Matthew Gotch and David Parrott at the moment having a nice battle, but it will be the battle for second. In this race here between the Lamborghini and the Audi right now. Koch makes his way through, but for how much longer really? It really is a slipstream battle right now, and running very deep into the second chicane there, and he's going to be a sitting duck surely for Parry now coming towards the Mulsanne corner. Although the thing about these chicanes is not quite normal. I know we do call them chicanes, but they do make things difficult to get a real run on them. And there's even a bit of contact coming down towards Mulsanne corner here. David Parry trying to get through, and he should do. But even with a mistake from Gotch there, it's kind of nowhere to go with a good run out of one of these chicanes.
No, for sure, and I think the Audi Parry there was just letting him know he was there, and I think he was trying to move him across, setting it up for that overtake, because it would have been very easy for the Lamborghini Bosch just to squeeze him out wide. So, but I think that little bit of contact was tactical, to be honest.
It's a dangerous game to play, I have to say. Going down the straight there, rubbing door handles, but there we are. Chance for the lead as well, overall, as Robert Tinsey goes through on Carter Cunningham again. Wolf and Carbonet have been battling a little bit as well, a little bit further down, with the battle for 5th also raging. So is the battle for 2nd here, and so on and so on. There's a lot going on out there on the road at the moment. But yeah, it's still staying very close in LMP2, especially for the lead between Tinsey and Cunningham. Tinsey trying to win his 30th race in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, of course. He tried to do that a couple of weeks ago at the Hungaroring, but Billy Smith's second denied him and got his 30th. So that was quite a battle between the two of them. Tinsey looking for his first win. I can't remember quite when it's been, but it has been a few seasons now since he won a race. And he hasn't won a race in this Dallara either in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. So is today going to be his day? Not going to be easy. Carter Cunningham is going to fight him for it.
It's not, and we're coming up to the halfway point, and they're still within a second of each other, and they're still swapping that lead. You can see when they get into the slipstreams, I mean, the gap's going out to 7, 8, 9 tenths, and then you can see the interval there on as we watch this fantastic GT3 battle. You can see the interval for first and second with the LMPs, and it is literally whizzing up and down, and you can almost tell where they are on the track just by the relative time and what it's doing. But if they concentrate on staying close together, they could, barring any incidents on track, that could go to the end of the race, could that battle?
Certainly could, certainly hoping so. But they've got to get towards the 1 hour mark before pitting again here, as Tinsey goes through again. So there it is. This is the battle for 5th though, a little bit further down. 3-car battle heading down towards the Porsche curves at the minute. A little bit of traffic to negotiate, but did it in a nice part of the racetrack. the same part of the racetrack that Tinsey used to get through on Cunningham, and here are the two leaders, with Joshua Wolf really not that far behind. Bit of an odd one now, because Wolf not involved in this championship fight. Not been well. He did snatch a podium actually a few weeks ago, but that was the first of them. Best finished third so far this season, and so this really does throw a cat amongst the pigeons, because Tinsey and Cunningham are thinking about points, how many they can gain on Smith, but Joshua Wolf just wants a race win, and so the dynamic really does change now in this battle for the lead.
Yeah, and I mean, it just goes to show again, they're battling away and they're slowing each other down. But you know, obviously they're not trying the bump draft technique and gaining a couple of mile per hour on the top speed. They're actually just using the slipstream and, as I say, battling away and slowing each other down, because Wolf's closed that gap down. It was quite a few seconds. Can't remember how many exactly, but it was a few seconds. He's very, very much in slipstream range now. He's under a second. He's going to get a toe down here now, and I think he's going to be a lot closer by the end of the second straight.
He certainly has done a good job here to close in. He's going to be getting some of the effects of the slipstream now. Oh, well, not from there, he's not. Oh, has he made a mistake? He looks like he's got to slow down. Has he? Or is he just pulling down? Yeah, it looks like he possibly has there.
Yeah, he's losing a few tenths, isn't he? He's just slowed down a little bit early to try and clear that penalty, and it's cost him a couple of seconds there. As that, he's probably managed it very well, because it would have asked him to lift off for a fair length of time, but it's cost him literally, I think, about 2 seconds. That, hasn't he? He was about 7 tenths back, and now he's 2.8. So it's cost him time, but he's already shown that he can close that gap. So I expect to see him again, as we're going to see another change for the lead now, with Cunningham and Tinsey. You can see that relative just going right down again, but not this time. But let's have a look back with Kopka now in 7th place in the GT3 Pros in the Lamborghini, and looking to put pressure on Park in front, who in turn is putting pressure on Jones in 5th place.
He certainly is. Yeah, I know Tetrouge is a very fast corner, but whatever happened to grass on the outside of corners? Anyway. That was these kind of things wouldn't happen, but anyway, there we are. This is the battle for 5th in GT3 Pro. Young Park going to be very disappointed he's found himself back here. It was fantastic to see him on the front row. He has been edging it. He's been in almost eternally in positions 6 to 10 in this season so far, it seems. Anyway, but in recent races, he has been popping up inside the top 5 with great frequency. And front row start for him here this week, which is fantastic to see. And then it all went away. Very slight contact with David A. Williams. Neither of them really deserved to go around for a spin with that kind of contact, because it was a very small misjudgment from the both of them as they were racing each other. A bit of a racing incident as well, really, but it had really dramatic consequences for them both. You see Williams down there in 9th position, even worse off than Park is at the minute. So that was really unfair on both of them, really, but especially Park, who qualified quite so well in this race, looking to really salvage what he can here. And I suppose all he can do is try and get this top 5 back away from Albert Jones. But as we've said all day, once you get involved in these battles and stuck behind these battles, you can't really get away, even though Park arguably has the second quickest car in the field at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and I tell you what, we're 50 minutes into this race, and that battle for the overall lead of the race is just see on the timing tower. It's closing up to be a 4-car battle very soon. It's going to get very, very interesting at the front, and yeah, nobody's got any breathing room now, have they? No, not really. Luke Carbonneau also here at the moment from 4th position. He's currently 13th in the standings at the minute. 2nd place back very early on in the season at Mosport, but that was a bit of a weird race, I've got to be honest. Not taking anything away from him, of course, but it was a good drive for him to get through all of the chaos to manage that one. But I remember only about 5 or 6 cars on the lead lap that day. But picking your way through the chaos, of course, it is a skill as well. Carbonneau is going to want a bit more of a battle on the road, though, for a podium on this occasion. He's going to certainly get it in that 4-car battle for the lead. And they're currently making their way down to the first Mulsanne chicane as we look at Mulsanne corner, and it's battle for 5th in GT3 Pro. Once again, Porsche and Lamborghini making their way now towards Indianapolis. Young Park very close
to Albert Jones here, but I always get a bit nervous about making moves here because it's not the best opportunity out of them all. So even the Porsche Curves is a bit less risky than this one because it's not got the kind of camber changes and all the things going on here at Indianapolis, but it doesn't look like Young Park wants any piece of this anyway. He stays behind rather sensibly, I think, into Indianapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes it's just better to use your noggle and just be a little bit cautious on the moves and just sit there ready to attack another day. And as we've already said, it may be, you know, that there are a lot. The cars in front of these guys are a long way up the road, so it's a case of you know, saving that fuel and just stay in the slipstream. Don't look to move ahead if you maybe your overall pace isn't that much faster than you're going, so you're going to benefit more by staying in the slipstream and launching an attack towards the end of the race, and maybe even doing it in the pit stops by having to take less fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Joshua Wolf under a lot of pressure from Carbonu now as the leading four have been split apart, and this is exactly what I was talking about with the bump drafting, even approaching traffic here. Bump drafting going on. Colin Weatherholt loses out on a couple of places to Dan Neese and Dominic Dundenberg, who are both recovering, and Jeffrey Humes not too far away either. Going down towards Indianapolis though, Wolf getting pushed along here. A perfect demonstration of the advantages, and look at the battles that are forming here in LMP2, side by side into Indianapolis for Austin Young as he goes around the outside of Vance Bell and into 7th position. This race is really reforming ever since we saw Ooms losing the lead here very early on, or at least in the first pit stop cycle. Guys are catching on left, right and centre. If we're not careful, we're going to have loads of cars in for the lead here. There's still nearly 40 minutes to go, let's not forget. There's plenty of time for this leading group to get a lot bigger.
Yeah, absolutely, and keeping it clean without incident. The gaps are closing up because everybody's battling, and cars are gaining slipstreams, but cars are having to defend, and it's sort of slowing them down a bit. It's bringing them together, but we have still got like a 7.5 second gap between 5th and 4th place. So as much as they are closing up, it's still a relatively comfortable gap there. But Tinsley and Cunningham are going at it hammer and tong, and Wolf and Carbonu are going at it hammer and tong here as well. They're just they are losing time to those front two because they are battling us. The minute that Wolf's come under pressure from Carbonu, that's when they've now started to lose time to those guys ahead.
Yeah, they have, and I do feel like Tinsley and Cunningham have just fallen into line a little bit over the last couple of laps as well, just realising the situation that is developing around them. A lot more dangerous when there's more cars involved than it is just the two of you, so they're possibly choosing to just not attack each other for the moment at the very least, and they can resume the battle a little bit later on. But yeah, Bidwell leading the charge in the minute in 5th position of LMP2. Wolf this time makes his way through Ted Rouge without getting too far out wide, and Carbonu is going to be pushing him along here. Doesn't quite get to the rear bumper of the Dallara this time around. As we go back to this battle for 5th position, McDaniel and Bidwell going for the swapping strategy by the looks of things, maybe down the straights rather than the bump drafting, which is maybe a little bit safer, as we see Young Parker has indeed been able to get his way into 5th place, and Albert Jones, the cork in the bottle in this little group, has been sent to the back and into 7th place.
Yeah, Cunningham still looking to put pressure on Tinsley. I mean, I've not got a lot of experience in these cars, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to driving. But I mean, how easy is it just to make that decision to sit back and just sit behind and just lift off? You know, is it going to be at the forefront of some of these guys' minds? It doesn't appear to be. They all seem to just want to get past the car in front. Is the fuel saving not that great, or do they genuinely all think they've got that much more overspeed that they can get ahead and get away? Because that's the only reason you'd want to get ahead, isn't it? Is because you can get away. Otherwise you may as well sit there, save fuel.
Yeah, it's a tricky one really to figure out quite what's going on here, because we can't forget that it's not only the race that these guys are arguing about, but also championship points, especially in the case of the front two, which really just change things. Here it is, Cunningham down the inside of Indianapolis. Tinsley not really fighting that one, but it was close. This is a bit of a fight though. Austin Young's flying, goodness me. 5th position now for Young as he gets through and patches it with Daniel into the very same corner. And now he gets to the front of this group. Let's see what he can do in marching towards that 8-second gap that has been presented in front of him. So yeah, Young having a fantastic debut this season now.
Yeah, and the leader's just coming up to a bit of traffic now, quite heavy traffic, but Cunningham manages to carve his way through and put one of the GT3 cars between himself and Tinsey. So that's going to do him a little bit of a favour, but I expect to see Tinsey close that gap up again as we just drop him back here to the battle for 5th position at the moment.
It's been ongoing for a while. Cup Car and Park often find themselves quite close to each other, really, in that similar kind of midfield range in the GT3 Pros. But there's a long way up to Mo Islam here. It's difficult to see them really getting anything more out of this race than from this battle. A little bit further back to the AM battle that we've been monitoring throughout this second part of the race, ever since the Anfield sort of fell apart in some ways because of all of the incidents that happened in the first half an hour. This one, Parry and Gotcha now nearly a minute behind Ryan Robertson in the lead of this race. We are going to have to do some more maths in a couple of weeks' time, because I'm pretty sure that with Trent Brown and Kevin O'Keefe not here, I know Trent Brown is going to be getting 15 points, which is not bad, but Ryan Robertson currently is going to be getting 37 because he's second in GT Pro, so or in GT overall, I should say. So that's not much help. In that case,
Dan Neese in the pits.
Yeah, as Dan Neese pits a little bit early once again. In that case, Robertson can clinch the championship in a couple of weeks' time, which is going to be quite something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll still have a good couple of rounds or so left, and that'll be an impressive feat of ability if he can claim the championship that early on. But this is the lap now where we're going to start to maybe see if some of the guys are struggling, if they have to make that pit stop. We know Dan Neese pitted earlier anyway, whether that was to repair that damage. He was in there for 40 odd seconds on the first one. This pit stop's only been the standard 29.98, so just under that 30-second stop, an average stop there for Dan Neese. But hopefully, will that see him go to the end, or will he be one of those drivers that, looking at that, he may struggle, because we're obviously under the hour mark and he's done his second pit stop, and if it goes round to that extra lap as well, then Dan Neese may struggle to get to the end of this one.
Yeah, not sure if it's going to be 25 or 26 laps this race, really. It may literally boil down to how much these guys battle at the front. That's how close it could get towards the end here. I think it's more likely to be 26, which is not good news for Dan Neese, because he'd need to do 10 laps in a stint, which is more than anyone's done today. Partly because there's no reason to, I suppose, but also partly because it's very tricky. And if he has to make a splash and dash, then he is going to be dropping down the order quite severely, I'm afraid, here. As we look at the battle for 6th position between McDaniel and Bidwell, the two of them got absolutely steamrolled by Aston Young, and you'd think these two will be able to fall into line with him and try and gain some time, but they really haven't been able to. Young is now absolutely flying, only just over 5 seconds behind the battle for 3rd place. So this is a fantastic debut. We saw Jeffrey Ooms, of course, making a fantastic season debut earlier on in the season, but he qualified well and dominated the race. This is completely different from Austin Young. He didn't qualify great, but he's racing very well at the minute, and with half an hour to go, who knows where he could get to.
Podium. I think he's definitely heading for that podium, and it might not just be the 3rd step, because let's not forget, once he catches up to Wolf, that the gap to the guys ahead isn't actually, it's not that big a gap.
Yeah, it really isn't. This race staying very, very compacted as we see Cameron Bidwell into the pit lane here on lap 17. One of very few, actually. These guys looking to run out as long as possible here in this stint. They will not need to take a full tank of fuel here at the next stop. They will be able to definitely leave out 1 lap of fuel here. Will the drivers?
Yeah, Jeffrey Ooms is coming into the pit, so let's watch his pit time as well. See if I genuinely think that he made a mistake on that first one. I'm
not sure because 1:10 is still long for if he accidentally took tyres or something like that. I think that there must have been an incident we didn't see and damage, because the gap was a lot closer as well. We suddenly commented that Cunningham had gained about 5 seconds on Ooms, and then we saw the race leader at the time come into the pit lane. So I just still feel like there was damage there somewhere along the line, but yeah, we don't really know for sure. We'll see though what the pit stop time is going to be for Ooms. Pibwell, 30 seconds pit stop for him. That'll be 9 laps of fuel put into that car, just in case we do get the 26 laps instead of the 25. Ooms does the same. He'll be absolutely fine on fuel from here. So yeah, it was a normal pit stop for him at this stage. And yeah, further. Well, I really do think that it was just damage repair, really. Although it's small damage repair, isn't it? So we'll have to try and get to the bottom. One of those things we'll have to get to the bottom of afterwards, really, rather than during the race, because it is a weird one. And Ooms is going to be very annoyed about it, because without it, I think it would have been a walk-away victory for him.
Yeah, definitely he was in control, and he had a sort of a 6-second gap at that point, and it was only going to get bigger, I think, was that gap as the race went on. But yeah, we may not find out what happened, you know, unless one of the other guys can tell us, or somebody in the chat can, if they know. But definitely. It's cost him his chance to win this race, but it's left us with a fantastic battle at the front between Cunningham and Tinsey, and Kavanagh, Wolf and potentially Young are all going to be up there or thereabouts at some point in the not too distant future, because Young's really was on a flyer and lapping probably round about a second quicker than those guys per lap at least, because they were battling hard and he was just pushing on.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys further, more than a minute behind Robertson at this stage, but still battling away. It's going to be a good fight to the end. Hopefully these two stay together after the pit stops, because that is going to be interesting to watch. The leaders will also be in, the overall leaders that is, will also be in very soon, you'd imagine. Coming up towards the end of the lap at the moment, Cunningham and Tinsey, and it's going to be nose to tail on the way out as well, you'd imagine. Here they are through the Porsche curves, half a second between them. No traffic about, just for the minute, and it's a straight fight right now. Approaching Brian Roseski in the GT3s, but not going to be overtaking him just for the moment. He's coming in as well, incidentally. So 1 and 2, Cunningham and Tinsey into the pit lane, absolutely together, and there's 26 minutes for them to decide who's going to be winning this race. And I feel like it could come down to the very, very final laps. Let's hope so for our sake. It's going to be a great fight, but this pit stop could well define it if somebody manages to get out a couple of seconds ahead of the other.
Yeah, absolutely. They've all gone in there, so just watch Austin Young as well. He's in. Patrick McDaniel behind them, he's in as well. So it's that they're all coming in now as we expected. But it's going to be an interesting one, because we've seen pit stops vary by sort of 2-3 seconds easily. So that could close up that gap, and that could leapfrog the car ahead. But let's just watch them times and see what happens. Austin Young is the man that we need to keep an eye on, because I think he's very much the man on the move. And if those guys ahead of him don't have one eye over their shoulder, they're going to find him bearing down on them very soon.
Yeah, indeed. Cunningham has got out slightly quicker than Tinsey there, and there is certainly a gap. Certainly a gap opens up between the two of them, more than Slipstream will offer, you would have to say. In this race, a much bigger gap is open to Wolf and Carvenu just behind. It was kind of forming over the laps preceding the pit stops, really, but it's still a little bit surprising to see. Yeah,
Young's lost out as well.
He has 3 or 4 seconds in the actual pit stop, never mind the actual in-laps there. So the gaps have extended out, but this does not mean the race is over by any stretch of the imagination. Less than 25 minutes to go, but Tinsey has got Cunningham in his sights, and he needs these points.
Yeah, for sure, and we've seen this gap before, and we've seen Tinsey pull it down again. Just the likes of Wolf and Cameron are battling behind because they're still tight together. So I think Young, it's showing the intermittent there. His interval is showing just under 4 seconds. So I think Young's very much still in the hunt, still on the chase, and he's still on the prowl, and he's going to be looking for that third spot, I would say, at the very least.
Oh my goodness, that was out of shape for Wolf as we go a little bit further back. Jeffrey Ooms is on a charge as well here. Where can he get to in the final stint of this race? He's going to be a man on a mission, and you won't want to come across him. Cameron Bidwell is just feeling the effects of that at the moment as he gets demoted to 8th place. Ooms is up to 7th. Now just over 3 seconds to Patrick McDaniel, who you can see in the foreground there. Where could he get to in this race? Top 5 very much possible for Ooms, surely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's going to be fired up, obviously, for whatever had caused him to have that long pit stop. He's fired up, and he had 40 seconds deficit to make up from where he should be on the track right now, which is he should be well out in front, well up in the lead of this race. But he's not. He's having to fight his way through, and we know Jeffrey Ooms is a talented driver, and he will make his way back through. As we said when he went in the pits and lost the lead, we said he's going to be one to watch. He's going to fight his way back through this field, and he is. And I think very much, definitely, he's going to get that 6th place, and potentially he's going to chase down. You've got to think that Young ahead in 5th at the moment. He's going to be battling for that 3rd. So it just depends at what point Ooms catches them, whereabouts. The clock is ticking down nicely now, and they've just got just over 20 minutes. So it could be a big ask for Ooms to get up into 5th place.
It could be. It depends if Bidwell lets him go here, really, partly, and it looks like he will do. So that's going to help Ooms as he comes across traffic at Indianapolis. My goodness, it's always scary here. The changes of direction and elevation and camber and all sorts going on there makes it very scary to go racing near other cars in that particular section of corners. So it's a bit of a hold your breath moment, but Ooms has made his way through it. And that incidentally is the battle for 2nd, or at least Matthew Gotcha's in the battle for 2nd in GT3 AM. We'll see if he reforms with Parry after the pit stops have been made and they continue their battle, because the GT3s then go a little bit longer in terms of their fuel, so it's less of a fuel sensitive race than it has been for the LMP2 so far, but it still does mean we're going to get final 15 minutes or so where the main battles will be together once more, and we'll have too many things to watch in all likelihood. But not complaining about that at all. One of the things we will have to watch is Conor Gundinger versus Robert Tinsey. The gap has already come down to below half a second. There's surely been a bit of traffic interference, and there's still traffic interference between the two of them. Gundinger down the inside of one of the Porsches. Tinsey not able to get through, and he's going to compromise his run. Is he going to get through at Tetruz? He just about is, but he's going to compromise his run all the way down the Mulsanne Straight and towards the first chicane. So Gundinger just restores that 1 second margin.
Yeah, interesting as well. And Ryan Robertson, now the AM leader, is in the overall lead of the GT class, as Booth has made his pit stop, his final pit stop it would have to be said, but he's made it a little bit earlier than some of the other guys in the GT class, but that's handed the overall GT lead to Ryan Robertson. So a fantastic performance from the AM driver there to now be leading the overall, the pros and the AMs.
Oh, Young has dropped down dramatically here. 8th position for him now. Where has this gone wrong for him? Because he was running well inside. He was running in 4th position a little bit earlier on. 5th, I should say, 5th position. But he's dropped down to 8th all very quickly. So how has that happened?
His last lap was a 4:22. Was that the?
Well, that was the
pit stop, wasn't it? Yeah, the outlap. So
this is what went wrong. Let's see, he ran wide after the corner there on the run up to Tetruz. That's not something you often see. The corner's done by that point almost, but I guess if you run things out a little bit too wide, you can end up like that. And unfortunately, the podium charge for Austin Young looks like it's over in his first race.
Definitely, and he's coming under pressure now from Bidwell, who's going to go around the outside of him there because he got a better exit out of that last corner. But they're side by side, and Young's obviously trying to fight back, and he's having to fall into line. He's having to be compliant with Bidwell and just drop in behind him. And yeah, it's gone from bad to worse with him as he's now down in that 8th place.
He is indeed, and that battle with Bidwell looks like it's set to continue. Even a little bit of weaving, not sure what that is about. Sometimes drivers try and communicate with the weaves, but it's hard to tell what an unhappy weave is compared to a happy one. So there you are. But Young is going to take the opportunity to go down the inside anyway at Indianapolis, and that will be easy as you like. Bidwell lets him through. Not entirely sure what that was all about, really, but either way, let's sort themselves out. This is what happened to Jeffrey Humes earlier on. Now, this also explains how Franco Margarella had such a long pit stop, and Mark Santana, but wow. Not Mark Santana, excuse me, but one of the McLarens anyway. And that is how Jeffrey Humes picked up damage. That is how he needed 40 seconds worth of repairs at his first pit stop here today. That, unfortunately, has undone his race, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously we saw there he was just starting another lap, so he did a full lap with the damage at least, and he obviously recognised that was slowing him down and adding seconds to his lap time that he needed to repair whatever that damage was, and obviously it cost him in the pit stop, but I'm sure it's overall in the race it's helped him in the race, so he's expensive mistake to make, and yeah, it's cost him a victory here tonight for definite.
He has indeed. There's a few battered cars running around at the minute. Christopher Pays is certainly driving one of those at the minute. All the way down at the order. Where is he right now? He's recovered fairly well, actually, from having a really long pit stop earlier on in this race. 27th overall. Just inside the top 10, I suppose, in the GT3 Pros, but yes, many battered cars out here at the minute, and not least this one.
Just taking a moment to look at the leaderboard as well with Jeffrey Humes. His last lap was he did a 29 compared to the guys in ahead who were doing 31s, 30s and 32s. So he's definitely catching on those guys ahead of him at the moment. He's got a bit of a gap to go, but he's definitely catching, and he's into that 5th place at the moment. So he maybe isn't over for him yet. He's maybe going to get another place.
Yeah, possibly. Is he just about going to run out of time, or is he going to have enough for this one? Is he going to be left down towards Cunningham and Tinsey? The two of them run fairly close to the minute, not quite as close as that gap would have you believe from the left-hand side there, but they're still quite close. Quite close right now. This just pays ever so slightly, by the way, in front of one of the AM runners right now, Sean Rees, in that Lamborghini. Currently running 4th in the AM category as Green makes his pit stop. Where has Matthew Godge got to? Because he was battling for 2nd with David Parry not so long ago. But all of a sudden, Matthew Godge is 3.5 minutes into a pit stop, so something has happened to him as well. Yes, it's been one of those races for some of these guys. I guess the 90-minute race makes it a little bit different, but Le Mans has been tricky for everybody here today. Not in terms of a driver error on your own kind of point of view, but the racing has been so close that there's been quite a lot of car-on-car incidents here at this particular race.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a hard race. It's been very close, and we've seen it concertina back up again as they sort of spread out in the early part of the race, and you know, they've come back together in the mid part, and then they've been racing very hard. No one's had chance to really settle into a steady race pace because they've been getting pushed from behind, and it's obviously breeds mistakes. It causes errors and creates a little bit of contact here and there, and it's a hard race. And like you say, 90 minutes, it makes it different because it's a case of you've got an extra 30 minutes to carry any damage, so it maybe sways that decision to get it repaired instead of carrying the damage as well. And the pit stop strategies, you know, trying to save fuel and stay out and things like that, it's a thinking man's race, is Le Mans for 90 minutes. It's definitely is, and it's been a good one.
He has. Cunningham at the moment makes his way through the final 4 chicanes as we see Pays into the pit lane. Yes, the leaders, Cunningham and Tinsey, make their way out over the start-finish line and on to the front straight once more. A little bit of traffic there, closes the two of them up. He comes across the line with just under 15 minutes to go, and so there's going to be 5 laps to go, including the one they're just beginning right now. Young really halted by a BMW there through the final corner, and Patrick McDaniel is right in his case again. The McDaniel himself has made a mistake, although we go on board now with Robert Tinsey, 29 times the race winner in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, but never in this car. He's been a champion of this category 4 times, but he's never won a race in the Dallara. The HPD was his jam, if you like, and he's got 5 laps to do something about this. Carter Cunningham has got 5 laps to hold on to try and reduce the margin that Billy Smith holds to 22 points in this championship right now. So a lot at stake for the two leaders. As we see Mo Islam, oh my goodness me, with a big snap of oversteer and a big hit into the wall.
It's a race-ending hit, is that one, isn't it, you? And that's a massive hit. The damage from that there is it's got to be pretty substantial.
And it is. Rear suspension damage, no less, which is the worst kind. You really can't control that very easily. So he comes back to the pit lane, and that is going to be race-ending indeed. But yeah, it's just one of those things really through this a medium high-speed corner is very important, obviously, because it's you run all the way down to the first Mulsanne chicane, but it's so easy to get wrong, and the barriers are not that far away there either. So a snap of oversteer like that is almost always a race-ending job.
Yeah, we saw how quickly. Oh no!
Tinsey goes around into the gravel. Oh dearie me, he was applying the pressure to Cunningham, and he's made a mistake. Luke Carbonu and Joshua Wolf here, and this battle is now going to be for second. But Cunningham now is going to have free rein with this race victory, surely, with more than 7 seconds of an advantage and 4 laps to go at the line. Tinsey's mistake has cost him here. It cost him another chance at a race victory for the 2nd round in a row. He's going to be very frustrated with that. He's going to want to certainly want to get this 2nd place away from Luke Carbonu as quickly as possible.
Yeah, for sure, and that's how easy it'll unravel itself there, just like you say, putting that pressure on the guy in front and causing himself to make a mistake now, and he's got to stay calm because we can see he's driving very aggressive there as the car was protesting on the front end as he came out of that corner, and he's coming under pressure now from Wolf behind because of that little bit of mistake coming out of that last corner. He's got to calm himself down, he's got to get back in that rhythm, and he's got every chance of getting that 2nd place back, but I think you're quite right. The first place is pretty much gone now unless Cunningham makes a mistake.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the mistake snowballing here, because he's got to be very careful of driving too aggressively. Carbonu once again into 2nd place here, trying to equal his best result of the season so far, back from round 3 at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Another one of those very attritional races. I wouldn't say it's been particularly attritional, so to say, but there has been a fair share of incidents. And you can see Ooms in the background there. Has he got enough time to get onto the podium? 4 laps still, and it's a 3:27 for him on the last lap, which is outrageously quick, I should say. Nearly 3 seconds quicker than Joshua Wolf, and over a second quicker than Carbonu there. So Ooms is not out of the picture here either, but with 5 seconds of a margin might be just a little bit too much at this stage. Then again, it kind of matters how much these 3 actually battle, and with only 10 minutes to go, you can be sure they are going to fight this one out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no bigger incentive for Ooms than he will see that relative coming down. It's under 5 seconds now, and he will have seen the fact that Tinsey's dropped back into this group as well. So he's the incentive is there, and that's got to be worth at least half a second a lap to a man like Ooms. He will be pushing hard. He's just about on qualifying pace, really. He's pushing that hard at the moment.
Well, that's all that he can do at this stage. He'll be wondering what could have been, of course. That mistake earlier on that we saw. Well, no, it wasn't really a mistake, was it? He just got caught up in someone else's incident, and this is the kind of thing that can happen. But yeah, it'll be the first time, I believe the first time this season Ooms has been on the podium without winning, which is a little bit weird. It doesn't often happen like that, but either way, oh my word, we've got an engine failure. We don't see this very often. I don't think this has happened on its own, by the way. This has been as a result of an incident, but one of the Porsches are out there at the moment, running around with smoke billowing out the back of that car at the minute. So, yeah, there's clearly been an incident that has gone on there for that Porsche.
Yeah, Tinsey coming under pressure now. He's coming under all sorts of pressure from Wolf, who seems to be just sat in that slipstream and couldn't quite get close enough to make a move. But he's definitely in prime position to have a go. We're going to get a replay now and see what happened here.
It wasn't even a Porsche. It was Boyd Payne in the BMW. So there we are. A slide through turn 3 or 4, and he's taken the entire front end off that BMW. And yeah, it's going to be a no from the engine by the looks of things. There it is, all the smoke coming out the back of that car at the moment. That's going to be the end of his day, you'd imagine as well. In this one of the few driver mistakes we've seen. Mo Islam obviously made one as well, but the 90-minute race now is starting to tell for some of these cars as we go back up to the leaders battling for second place. Still 3 laps to go at the line here, so plenty of time for Tinsey to make his move, but it's just so difficult in a battle like this to really get away, as we've seen before. This is how he is back in this group. Just a weird one, really. Just taking too much speed, I suppose, into the Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, he'll have been trying to maximise his exit speed there, and he's just maybe got onto the curb a little bit too much with too much right foot applied at the same time, and it's just made the car step out. And you can imagine the wording coming out there at that point, going through that corner. It probably wasn't pretty. And we're just looking at Bidwell here now running off onto the grass. So Cameron Bidwell having a bit of an incident, keeping it pretty much together and collected, but costing himself a lot of speed, and he's coming under pressure immediately there.
Yeah, I think that's McDaniel getting through, or possibly Young. It was Young, Austin Young, getting back into 6th position now. Zooms now only 3.7, 3.8 behind. Gains another second and a bit on the rest of them. That could be in their minds as well. If they fight for the entirety of the rest of the race, these 3 over second, then they are going to allow Ooms into the equation, as we've seen so many times in this race so far. I can't help but think what a different race it's going to be at Imola and the Nürburgring in the next couple of races. You know, this track is so unique. We see almost a different type of racing to what you see anywhere else. But you think about who you're battling and when you're battling so much. It's going to be an all-out brawl for the next couple of rounds. There's, you know, no reason to stay behind anybody almost at any point in some of the other races.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Imola's it's going to be a shock to the system when they get there, because it's got a good mix of corners and undulation as well with the track. It's going to be a tough one for them after this week's going to seem relatively easy compared to Imola.
Yeah, absolutely. And elevation change is something that Le Mans is not known for, but Imola is. So that's going to be a bit of a shock as well. We can go towards Mulsanne corner. On board with Tinsey now. Getting the benefit of the slipstream there slightly, but not using it to launch an attack up the inside of that LMP2 just in front of him. And you can't imagine that he's going to do anything different coming into Indianapolis. Although it is a fairly popular place to make a move, and maybe with a good enough run here, he would be tempted. Is he going to stay behind, pump draft, or make an overtake? Well, it looks like he's going to the outside line to even make an overtake here. So with just over 2 laps to go, Tinsey takes this second place. But is that going to be a mistake? Because Carbonneau is going to have the chance to come back at him, even into the Porsche curves. We saw Tinsey going wide into the left-hander there. Could even be under pressure down this very next straight.
Yeah, definitely. Such as the racing tonight, that the slipstream is king, and if Carbonneau can stay in that slipstream, he's maybe might not get him down here, maybe he will, but he's definitely going to be there for the next time around.
Certainly is. That's why I would have been tempted to stay behind, if I'm honest, if I was Tinsey at the minute. But this has kind of got rid of Wolf over the last couple of laps. The pace that these two are showing, just getting Wolf out the back. These two possibly confirming the fact that they are going to be finishing on the podium here today, second and third. The order not as yet undecided, but Wolf is struggling to keep with the pace with these guys at the moment. And, you know, we've been speaking about slipstream all day, but you do still need the pace through the corners at Le Mans to stay with these guys. You can't be losing loads of time through the corners and hanging on to these guys. Obviously, it does make it easier, but Wolf showing that this pace that these guys are going at currently in this battle for second is not slow.
Yeah, looking like Ooms has maybe just got a little bit too much to do. He was about a second and a half quicker than some of the guys ahead of him on that last lap, but he's still got 2.5 seconds to close up on Wolf, so it's maybe just a bit too much, or too little too late maybe, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. 2.2 seconds, 2 laps to go. Yeah, you might get Wolf, but I think a podium is going to be difficult. Down towards the first chicane again. Now this is going to be a first opportunity really to see how viable it is for Carbonell to get through. Well, the first straight of the lap, and we're seeing Tinsey under pressure. Are we going to see him defend, or are we going to see Carbonell stay behind? Well, it's going to be the latter. Tinsey is going to stay in front, but it's really hard to see him hanging on from this situation. He may almost be hoping that Carbonell actually does go through here, because then he can have the last or start the last lap in second position. There may be a little bit of jockeying for position here.
Yeah, this could all be tactics. He's tucked in well there. He's not really looking to make a move. He's just sitting there, and like you say, he's going to know there's going to be another lap to go. So he's thinking that he's going to make that move on the last lap and have less defending to do.
See if traffic plays a role as well. Carbonell, he's been the most eager to bump draft so far in this race, and that might also be adding to the problems here for Wolf, who's losing the pace. They're even catching Carter Cunningham just a little bit, just over 6 seconds now between the leader and this group, which is too much at this stage in the race with only 2 minutes to go. Far too much indeed. Cunningham just cruising home to a very important race victory. There's Carbonell pushing Tinsey along. I get the feeling that he wants to start this final lap in second position. Looking at the straight line speed he has shown us so far, he's looking fairly strong for his second place finish of the season.
Yeah, and that's going to rub salt into the wounds for Tinsey, who was looking solid for second and potentially looking to take the win as well. He was really taking the fight to Cunningham until that mistake. So yeah, if he loses second place now, that, like I say, that is going to be salt to the wounds for Tinsey.
Now here's Dan Neese after that incident at the first Mulsanne chicane with the lapped car. He's been running in the lower parts of the top 10. Now in 10th position, looking to try and take 9th from Dominic Durnenberg. But these two are a little bit far removed from the front of the field, where Carter Cunningham is about to start his final lap, and does so right now. It gets onto the final lap, lap 26, with just under a minute to go. We will be going another lap in this race. Maybe one too many for Robert Tinsey. Is he going to be able to hang on in this final lap? That's the real question. As we go towards turn number 1 and the first chicane of the lap, Carbonell locks up. Wow, nearly went into the back of Tinsey there. It really is between the two of them. Wolf out of the picture at this stage, but that was a mistake from Carbonell, and Tinsey has got a chance to run away here.
Yeah, it's not all over yet though. Just watch this now. I mean, Carbonell made the mistake. He was just a little bit too hot in and too close. But Dan Neese is still looking to try and get that 9th place away from Durnenberg, but he's not got it yet. He's still there. He's going to get the slipstream, and he may get it down the Mulsanne straight. But yeah, we'll have to watch for that one. But back up to the front there, certainly for that second place. I think Carbonell, he's not going to be his last chance. I don't think he's lost out. I think he might close up here. He'll use the slipstream now to close up, and he may be able to attack on the second part here, or very much onto the next second half of the lap. We saw he was quite strong in some of those corners.
Yeah, if he had a better first half of the lap, or better first part of the lap at least, he would have had the chance there at the first chicane. What he's had to do is basically use these straights to catch back up again. The gap's still half a second.
Look at Ooms in the background as well, though. He's there on Wolf now. I think he's going to get Wolf, isn't he?
It looks like it. Wolf's going to do well to defend from that position here. Tinsley's going to do well to defend as well. His Carbonneau is almost right where he was before. A little bit of a slide out of the second chicane. Has not helped his cause particularly, but there's still an opening here. Ooms in the background into the Mulsanne corner. He might as well take his time because it's very unlikely he's going to get through on these two. As Tinsey pulls to the right hand side and lets Carbonneau through. There is going to be jockey position on the final lap here. Tinsey knew he was going to get overtaken, and so he's decided to do the overtaking himself here and get the slipstream on past into either Indianapolis or the Porsche curves. Carbonneau weaves absolutely everywhere in defence of this second position. He moves to the middle of the road so he can choose his options and squeeze Tinsey all the way to the left hand side, but it's not really going to matter. Tinsey looks like he's going to sail around the outside, and he does take that second place away on the final lap, but this is not over yet. Carbonneau is very, very close indeed, and into the Porsche curves. He's surely going to have a go here. It's the shortest straight of the ball, and it's the fastest corner at the end of it as well. Neither of those things are ideal for Carbonneau, but if he gets a good enough run and good enough slipstream into the final section of corners, he might just have a go, although it doesn't look like it's quite going to be enough. Dan Neese, it looks like he might just about have enough here for ninth position. There he goes, sailing down the inside into Indianapolis. He makes a nice and easy move. It doesn't even look like Jeffrey Ooms got through into fourth place. As we look at this camera angle now, Wolf and Ooms will stay in the same positions. Carter Gunninger, though, it's going to come through into the final four chicanes once again to take a race victory in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. It's his second ever in this championship and his first of the season, but possibly his most important to date. He wins here at Le Mans after 1 hour and a half of racing. Carter Gunninger by over 7 seconds takes it from Robert Tinsey, who has a decent day, and Luke Carbonneau with his second podium of the season. Joshua Wolf holds off Jeffrey Ooms for that fourth position in those final few laps. As we go back to Dan Neese, who looks like he's going to hold on from Dominic Durnenberg in a last lap pass for the ninth position here in the LMP2 category as well. Ross Booth currently about halfway through his lap, and Brian Robertson not too far behind him. We'll see those GT winners across the line soon, but a very important win for Carter Gunninger, his second in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge history, but this is a very, very important one indeed, as he closes that championship margin to just 22 points to Billy Smith.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's all to play for at the next round of Imola for them, and be interesting to see how Billy Smith comes back at that one, and if Carter Gunninger can sort of maintain some of that momentum, because we have seen that in this championship so far, that there's only twice where where the races have been won, and then the next round the same driver hasn't won that race. It's they've usually done a couple of races before they've lost that winning streak, so it's going to be interesting to see if Carter Gunninger can maintain any sort of winning streak there. And it's a great win for him. It's a good track to win at. It's a 90-minute race. He's done really well to keep it out front. He soaked up a lot of pressure, and well deserved win for me is that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Two different drivers, by the way. I've won 3 different races. 3 races on the bounce, I should say, which is very weird. Doesn't happen very often at all. But it has done. Gunninger gonna, as you say, try and get a run going here. And I feel like in the last 3 races, even this might not be enough, but in the last 3 races, Gunninger for me has to beat Smith in every single race. He has to chip away at those 22 points for the last 3 races. Gain an average of 8 points a race, really, isn't he? For him to overhaul Smith. So it is a tall order still, but he's given himself a chance by winning this race here at Le Mans. Speaking of winning at Le Mans, Ross Booth is about to experience what that is like here for GT3 Pro, because we've barely seen him all day, and he's barely seen anybody else. But he's going to be victorious here by the looks of things and really take a great step forward in this championship. He came in with a 19-point lead. It's going to be a lot bigger than that at the end of the day. Ross Booth wins here at Le Mans by a comfortable margin ahead of Ryan Brzezinski. And in the GT3 AM category, it's going to be Ryan Robertson also taking a comfortable victory. He had over a minute of a lead for the final stint of this race. He's going to be scored one lap in front of everybody else in this one as well. It's a dominant victory in the GT3 AMs for our championship leader and surely our champion in waiting. We'll have to wait a few weeks to find out if that becomes true or not, of course. But there you have it as we see the final few drivers coming over the line. An hour and 36 into this one. But some of them still haven't come in. And I have a feeling Kopkar's going so slowly here because he's actually miscalculated the fuel, which is not something that happens infrequently, actually, especially when you're not the leading category. Kopkar having to coast around here, so he makes his way around for this 5th position.
Yeah, he's definitely, like you say, coasting round. You can hear the car popping and banging there. No fuel. He's literally just clutching it and trying to survive. And I think he's going to just about do it. He's managing to not do anything too erratic. And you can see there, there's no revs on. He's just coasting.
We've all been there. I've been there in the lead once. That was scary. So anyway, that's a story for another day. Kopkar, though, is going to take a very respectable 5th position, held off Young Park. Young Park actually slowed down to make sure that Kundiger overtook him, so he didn't have to do another lap. So Kopkar ended up in 5th position almost by default in that battle. But yes, he's made it to the line now with just enough fuel to get himself over there in that 5th position. So there we have it. Hopefully we'll be taking a quick look at our race results before long, and we'll be able to chat to our race winners from this one as well. Kundiger, Booth and Robertson hopefully will be joining us in a short time. But yeah, hopefully we can see the results. And here they are. Ryan Robertson takes a dominant victory in GT3 AM ahead of David Parry. Dale Green was third ahead of Sean Rees and Franco Margarello, who of course got involved in that incident that eventually screwed over a little bit Jeffrey Hume's race, unfortunately, at the Porsche Curves. Boyd Payne, with that late crash, finishes in 6th position. Mark Santana in the Triple Three is 7th, ahead of Robert Cast, Matthew Gotch and Kevin Santana, rounding out your top 10 in GT3 AM. GT3 Pro, won by Ross Booth. Didn't see him all day, but didn't need to because he was very, very calm and considered and dominant ahead of Brzezinski. Joran Shirazi was third, ahead of Albert Jones and Niko Kopkar, finishing in the top 5. Young Park 6th ahead of David A. Williams. Christopher Pays in 8th ahead of Mo Islam and Olivier Turcotte, rounding out the top 10 there. LMP2 is Carter Kundiger just about edging out Tinsey, Carbonu, Wolf and Dooms, who all crossed the line in a big lump. Austin Young just outside the top 5 ahead of Cameron Bibbo 7th. Christian McDaniel 8th, last man within a minute. Dominic Durnenberg finishes 9th ahead of Leif Peterson, rounding out your top 10. Well, there you have it. There are your race results from that one. We're going to have a chat to our class winners. Now, starting with Ross Booth, the GT3 Pro winner. Ross, we basically didn't see you all day because you were out there running on your own, very far in front of everybody else. Were you a little bit surprised that you found yourself in such a position when we weren't very far into the race and you already had it under control, seemingly? Did that surprise you a little bit?
Yeah, it did actually. I was expecting a lot of back and forth and swapping of positions early on in the race with the fuel save, but I think there was a 3 wide incident into one of the corners and that dropped a whole bunch of people, and it was sort of just Robertson and I there, and I was just sort of managing the gap, and I think he made a couple of mistakes which opened up the gap even more, and I was able to just sort of put it on cruise control the whole rest of the way, so that was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. You were on cruise control the whole time, but these race courses are slightly different to the 60-minute races. Do you approach them any differently? Because of course we do have one coming up with the finale, of course, at Spa. Do you approach the 90-minute races any different to the 60-minute?
Not at all, actually. I I do exactly what I would do in a 60-minute race. Try and save as much fuel as you can, where you can, and just run as fast as you can. Traffic really wasn't a big issue for me. Thankfully, the LMP2s on their first pit stop didn't get to the GT leaders on the first way around, so I didn't even they didn't even bug me the first time through, so that was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Very dominant drive from you today. So, congratulations on that. It was a great win, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ross Booth there, winner, of course, in GT3 Pro. Now let's move up to LMP2 because Carter Cunningham now joins us. Overall and LMP2 race victory, of course. Carter, congratulations to you. First win of the season and possibly one of the most important as well, of course. But talk us through your battle with Robert Tinsley there in the final half hour and, the final hour, really. You two were going back and forth at it, but his mistake eventually led to your victory. But it must have been a very nerve-wracking final half an hour or so.
That was a really fun, stressful race, and I mean, I wish it wouldn't have taken 11 rounds, but I'm so thankful I finally got to win this season. Coming into this, I knew that Billy was going to be gone this week, so I basically, my goal was, okay, we need to get as many points as we can, see what we can get back on Billy after he was able to win during my absence last time at Hungaroring. What a better way to do it. So, my battle with Tinsley, it really was just a battle of fuel saving, I think, for the most part. I had to save about half a gallon on that first stint, and then I needed to save just a little bit on the second. So it was a lot of that. So that was part of the back and forth. And then really it was just traffic kind of that was really what decided who was in front and who was behind. Obviously unfortunate for him that he spun into the Mulsanne corner. But knowing that he did that, it kind of sealed the deal for him, which was pretty nice. So unfortunate way, obviously, to win. It would have been nice for me to race him out to the end because I think that would have been a really good battle at the end there, since we both had enough fuel on that last stop to go all the way to the end without having to save. But honestly, just so happy. I was really iffy in the practice session earlier, making a lot of mistakes. So just being able to take advantage of some screw-ups by not only Tinsley but also Ooms earlier, who I think had some issues coming out of the Porsche curbs, and then Nathan, who had a unfortunate mishap with a slowdown not going away and not serving his slowdown. So, but hey, a win's a win. Can't complain how I get it, just as long as I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly as well, with 3 rounds to go, how are you feeling about the championship prospects now? My maths have you at 22 points behind Smith with 3 races to go. Do you think you'll be able to keep this one alive?
Yeah, I'm hoping I can keep finishing well. I think Billy has had a few better finishes. I think he's had a couple wins now, which is not really helping me. Who this is my first win. But honestly, it's really nice to get back on the route of finishing well after having a few iffy rounds at the Japanese tracks. So definitely gonna try and keep it as close as I can here. I guess we'll just see what happens. So it'll be an interesting last 3 rounds here, I think, for the 2 of us.
Absolutely will be. We look forward to seeing you for those. But for now, we'll let you go. Enjoy the victory. Congratulations, and thanks very much for coming to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Carter Cunningham, winner overall and, of course, in the LMP2 category. And finally, before we go tonight, we'll speak to the GT3 AM winner, Ryan Robertson. We're speaking to you at an alarming rate at this stage, Ryan. It's another race victory for you, and one of the most comfortable race victories we've seen from anybody all of this season. Obviously, it started quite close between you and some of the rivals in GT3 AM, but by the end, you were just controlling, really. So how was the race overall?
At the end of the day, it was kind of boring near the end. I had a half spin that was just due to the lack of concentration, but it was the first couple of laps for just, it's the draft fest that it was, and it was super tight. and unluckily David and Young Park, I think it was, got into each other behind me, and it kind of gave me that gap. And at that point, Ross was a couple of seconds, and I'm never going to catch him at this rate. But no, it was fun. I was able to kind of hang in there for a bit, so it helped. I'll take it. I'll take a second place overall. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting some great overall finishing positions at the minute here in this one. And just quickly as well, a couple of weeks' time, Imola coming up. How are you feeling about that?
It's been a while since I've ran the track, but if I can keep the momentum I've had in the last 3 races and keep it mostly clean, like I have been, I think I can pull out another good result out of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing it in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, we'll let you go and enjoy the victory. Congratulations, and thanks very much for coming to talk to us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Ram Robertson from the GT3 AB win here at Le Mans. Well, that is just about it for us here at Le Mans. 1 hour and a half of racing is complete. And now we only have 3.5 hours remaining in this entire season. 1 hour to come at Imola in a couple of weeks' time. Then we've got the Nürburgring to come, of course, and another hour and a half finale here at Spa. So make sure you tune in for those. We'll be back next with the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge on the 25th of April. That's 2 weeks on Monday at 9:05 ET, as always, from Imola, as we've mentioned. The next Virtual Grip Network broadcast, though, is coming up a lot sooner, you'll be glad to know. Tomorrow at 10 to 9 Eastern Time, it's the PGRO Premier Series live from Bristol. So make sure you join us for that. For now, though, that's it from us here at the Virtual Grip Network. I've been Ian O'Leary alongside Steve Proudly. And until next time, goodbye for now.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.